So today I wanted to kind of continue the series on leading KPIs that you can track in a weekly meeting that precipitate action. Today I'm going to focus on estimators. Now, I sat in the seat of an estimator for a long time. A role I really like, tickles the analytical side of my brain, but ultimately, estimators are a curious breed, and how you measure them is important. So I'll jump right into it. First one, I like cycle time metrics. One of the key areas that I like to focus on is that specific measure of time from when an estimator receives all of the field documentation they need to generate the estimate and when they actually get it out the door. Sometimes this is date inspected to date estimate sent. Sometimes, depending on an emergency workflow, this could have different measurables, but think about it in the terms of when do they have all the information they need and when can they get the estimate out the door. Reason why this is important, I can't remember where I heard it, but there is a direct correlation between how fast an estimate gets delivered and how many objections you receive to that estimate, meaning the shorter that timeline is, the fewer objections you receive from an adjuster, from your client, whoever that is. So measuring that lag time, super critical. Second one I like to measure is average adjustment from initial estimate as a percentage. So if we sent out an estimate that was 10 grand and we actually contracted for 9 grand, okay, not necessarily a negative thing, depending on your overall strategy, how you want to be perceived in the market, but a critical number to know upstream, and also an indicator of how much erosion is occurring in the negotiating process. And that leads me to my third metric, and I can't take credit for this. This goes to the Actionable Insights crew, Watley, Seth. It is F9 note utilization, right? And this was a principle they taught me when we had them out for training. I don't think it's proprietary at this point. I think everybody kind of knows it, but F9 note utilization, the principle that they taught us on is 25%. So for every 4 line items you have in your estimate, making sure at least one of them has an F9 note clarifying its intention. And I always like to author F9 notes with the intention of overcoming the objection I know is coming before it's actually received. A lot of the times this can speed up the negotiations process. It can also help you show up super pro in a competitive estimate environment, and with the ability to have note templates and macros within Xactimate, it doesn't have to be something that slows you down a whole lot. We would build note templates for headers. We would build note templates for specific use cases, like stabilization. We would have a note template for that, and that note template might apply across several line items, and we post it as a header. But overall, if you have a 25% F9 note to line item ratio, you're probably documenting the estimate pretty well. And it gives an estimator, you put it in the context of the conversation you have with your estimator, and maybe they're not performing, maybe they're not documenting well enough, and you go to them and you're like, do better. And they're like, cool, what does do better even mean? Now you can go to them with a principle that says 25% of your line items should have an F9 note. That'll force their natural creative instincts to fire and get creative on, hey, which ones can I put an F9 note on without looking like I'm the guy that's just F9 noting everything, right? Nobody wants an F9 note on every single line item, kind of defeats the purpose of the F9 notes. But making sure you have that 25% ratio puts you in a good position, and overcoming the objections you know are coming before they show up on your doorstep. Hopefully this was helpful. Feel free to comment below on what leading indicators you're using to measure your estimators. Super interested in the conversation. Love data. That's why I'm here at Pivot, and happy to help. Take care.